Hello, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to thank Mantech for their continued support of our From the Crow's Nest podcast. It was a pleasure to work with them at AOC 2025 in December, and I am pleased to be here today with Jody Grady, Chief Technology Officer, Navy Segment at Mantech. Grady, thanks for joining me here on From the Crow's Nest, and I'm excited to discuss non-kinetic effects with you today. So to begin, can you tell us a little bit about Mantech and your role in this field?
Thank you, Ken, for having me on From the Crow's Nest. I'm excited to discuss Mantech and what we do with non-kinetic effects. So Mantech is a company with over 50 years of experience supporting our nation's most critical national security missions. So we have seen this demand for non-kinetic effects evolve firsthand. We deeply understand the technical, financial, and operational challenges for today's warfighter. So what we're doing right now is we're tackling one of the most significant challenges in modern warfare, the integration of non-kinetic effects, or NKE. By NKE, we mean capabilities that, like electronic jamming or cyber attacks, effects that disrupt the adversary without using physical munitions or blowing stuff up. My view is that NKE must be proliferated. We have to complicate the adversary's understanding of the battle space by deploying large numbers of varied effects operating at same or nearly the same time. And this proliferation is impossible, of course, without the most key factor in proliferation, which is cost. NKE must be affordable. As a matter of fact, it must be attritable, meaning it's low cost enough that we can afford to lose a platform and not be too sad about it. We need to force the adversary to expend more expensive weapons meant for our high-end ships, our highly valuable submarines, and instead of using it against them, use it against our low-cost platforms. Because the math has to work in our favor. The adversary's cost to eliminate our NKE platforms has to be much higher than the cost of us providing the platforms themselves. We have to remember that the most exquisite system may not be operationally best. If it's too expensive to buy or too precious to use, then it's no good to us. It's a fail.
That brings up a great point about complexity, and it's a persistent challenge in our community to address this. We often see that as systems get more complex, they get more expensive and harder to integrate. And sometimes we just wait too late to even try to integrate non-kinetic operations. So how is Mantech solving some of these integration issues and, most importantly, controlling the skyrocketing cost of next-generation systems?
That is a great point. So while the demand for cyber and electronic warfare is growing, the problem is the effects are often developed in a way that keeps them separate from traditional kinetic operations instead of being synchronized or integrated. And by synchronized, I want to be super clear. I don't mean micromanaged. I don't mean human touching it at every point. Autonomous systems are important to a synchronized, meaning happening at the same time, happening in cooperation outcome. So in a world where our adversary may have numerical superiority, we need to create non-kinetic effects umbrellas around our ships, submarines, and aircraft that protects friendly forces from being targeted in the first place. And so to solve that complexity of synchronized non-kinetic umbrellas, we're developing a digital foundry where the core is a digital environment that supports the entire capability lifecycle, build, deployment, operations, recovery, the whole deal. So within this environment, of course, we use model-based system engineering. Simply put, this moves us away from static paper drawings to unified 3D digital models. That way, when we change one part or we change one capability, it replicates to the rest of the deployed platform. And MBSE is not just critical for the technical part, but for controlling costs. If I can iterate through MBSE and get rid of obvious problems, then I'm not spending money on prototypes that I could be spending on production. We know that overly complex integration, putting too much stuff in one place drives costs, so we're trying to keep it simple, single platform, single capabilities deployed in mass. By using MBSE, we can ensure that we test not just the technical, but the concept of operations, the ConOps. How many of these platforms should be in what locations, used in what ways, so we can drive down the cost of deployment. And this allows us to design and visualize complex interactions before they're ever fielded. And that prevents expensive mistakes later in the process.
It's one thing to design a system in a clean digital room, but just because it works in a lab doesn't mean it's operationally relevant in the field. And we're seeing this in Ukraine, where sometimes just because we test it cleanly in a lab, once it faces the adversary in Russian next-generation systems that they deploy, it doesn't work quite the way that we want. The world is messy. You have weather, you have countermeasures, logistics, a host of other challenges that you have to face the minute that you begin the fight. So how do you ensure these systems will actually survive and function in a contested environment where conflict could last for a long time, and not just a few days or weeks?
You've identified the two key challenges: facing reality and being persistent. And a primary reason for solo integration that we talked about before is the lack of representative environments for operational testing, on par with what exists for kinetic systems. Aviators have really good flight simulators. SWOs have really good bridge simulators. Aegis has really good CIC simulators. We have to have the same for NKE. So the Mantech solution is to create a representative environment digitally, populate that environment with high fidelity digital twins, exact virtual replicas that behave just like real aircraft, real ships, real non-kinetic effects platforms. So in this environment, we can account for real world factors. I mean, for example, in a Navy context, wind and sea state are critical. And to ignore that means your platform probably won't succeed. And we do focus on persistence. In a denied environment with contested logistics, we can't assume limitless fuel, data, or time. Our solutions have to operate autonomously or semi-autonomously in a persistent way without direct support. Our NKE platforms must be designed also to stay in the adversary space and provide effects for that long period of time. We can't assume that a conflict will be over quickly like everyone assumed Ukraine would be over quickly. Furthermore, we have to use these models to anticipate countermeasures, the countermeasures we know about and countermeasures that might evolve.
So finally, I want to talk a little bit about the warfighter, because that's why we do From the Crow's Nest. It's to help the warfighter to advocate on their behalf. And even this month, we're highlighting what it means to be a warfighter and a crow. If we proliferate these systems, as you're suggesting, do we risk drowning our operators in data and analysis? How can we leverage non-kinetic effects without adding to our warfighters' data burden that they have already?
So that is a key factor, right? The humans are the key part of the human-computer interface when it comes to any kind of platforms. And Mantech has already seen success here. Our work on the NCTE contract, the Navy Continuous Training Environment, which is effectively a massive global simulation network for training. We leverage digital twinning there to create an information warfare practice capability. So this allows operators to train in a way that was previously impossible. But operationally, we have to ensure that these proliferated platforms, like you say, don't drown the operators in data. And also, don't expend the limited number of decisions a human can make in a given amount of time. Have to manage data, have to manage the decision space. So the AI things platforms need to be able to receive general orders, go to a general location, do a general thing, not exact rudder, not exact parameter down to the waveform, right? And crucially, we need to get feedback from these platforms that can be consumed in a way that the operator can handle, not more drowning in data. Don't give the operators another stream to look like. It has to work with the systems they have. And the AI has to be adaptable. The countermeasures we anticipate won't be the countermeasures we get. We have to be able to roll with the punches, and the AI has to be able to adapt to waveforms, adapt to weather, adapt to tactics. And for the commanders, updating these platforms has to be low bandwidth. We can't assume unlimited data. We can't assume unlimited fuel. And the orders can't be super complicated and super technical. Simple text files, or like our Marines like the 5-paragraph order, that's what we have to do. So you nailed it. Don't add to the warfighter's burden, add to the warfighter's capabilities.
Well, Jody, it's been great to talk with you about non-kinetic effects here today. And it was great to work with retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Kevin Kennedy at AOC 2025. And of course, he was a guest for our panel discussion, which we're airing this month. Really appreciate your support and your help on these issues. If any of our listeners want to reach out to Mantech to learn a little bit more about the products that you offer, how can they reach out to you?
Well, of course, they can go to our website, mantech.com. If someone wants to, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's Jody Grady on LinkedIn. Happy to discuss Mantech's capabilities.
Great. Well, Jody, thank you so much for joining me here on the show today. Now it's time to get back to our show.